Good morning, fourth grade. Today in math, we'll be doing lesson 7.8, subtraction with renaming. Our question is, how can you rename a mixed number to help you subtract? We're on page 297, and we're on Unlock the Problem. Bruce, Chandler, and Chase go bike riding on weekends. On one weekend, Chase rode his bike for 3 hours. Chandler rode her bike for 2 hours and 1/4 hour. And Bruce rode his bike 1 3/4 hours. How much longer did Chandler ride her bike than Bruce did? Now, before we even start, it says, which operation will you use? Well, our clue words are how much longer. How much longer means we're going to need to subtract. The next thing says, in the problem, circle the numbers that you need to use to find a solution. We need to use 2 1/4 and 1 3/4. Now, the example they gave us to use is a model of a number line. And they've asked us to shade the model to show how long Chandler rode her bike, then shade the model to show how long Bruce rode his bike. By shading to 2 1/4 and shading to 1 3/4, it's easy to see where the unequalness is. So, right here is where Bruce stops, and right here is where Chandler stops. So, 1, 2, 2/4 or 1/2. So Chandler rode her bike 1/2 hour longer than Bruce did. Underneath it says, if you have 1/4 size part, can you take away 3/4 size parts? Well, that's the problem. If you only have 1/4 of a piece of pie, you can't eat 3/4 of a piece of pie. So in today's lesson, we're going to figure out how to take a mixed fraction so you can subtract it. It says if you have 1/2 and 1/4 size part, can you take away 3/4 size parts? Well, you can. 1/2 is 4/4 of something, and 1/4 is actually added to it to make 5/4. If you take 3/4 from 5/4, you have 2/4 or 1/2. In step 1, it says find the difference. 5 1/8 minus 3 3/8. Step 1 says rename 5 1/8 as a mixed number with a fraction greater than 1. Think 5 1/8 actually equals 4 plus 1 plus 1/8. So they took 1 away from that 5. Then in step 2, they made 1 8/8 because 8/8 is actually equal to 1. So the fraction renamed becomes 4, and then you add that 8 to the 1, and it's 9/8. So 1 5/8 can be renamed 4 9/8. Now, subtract the mixed numbers. Then you have 4 9/8 minus 3 3/8. Do the fraction part first. 9/8 minus 6/8 leaves us with 3/4. 4 minus 1 leaves, 4 minus 3 leaves us with 1. Now remember, 6/8 reduces to 3/4. By putting 2 into 6, it becomes 3, and 2 into 8, it becomes 4. Now, The other way to find the difference is to rename both mixed numbers as fractions greater than 1, meaning the numerator will be bigger than the denominator. Now, let's talk about how they do that. The first thing they do is look at the denominator and multiply it by the whole number. So they take 12 times 3, which becomes 36, and then they add the numerator to it. 12 times 3 equals 36 plus 4. 4 plus 36 becomes 40. So 3 and 4/12 renamed becomes 40/12. So 1 and 6/12, 12 times 1 is 12, plus 6 is 18. So 1 and 6/12 becomes 18/12. Then they take 40/12 minus 18/12 and they get 22/12. Well, anytime there is a fraction with a larger numerator than a denominator, it has to be made into what we call a proper fraction. They then take 12 and put it into 22, and you get a 1, and there are 10/12 left. Now they reduce the 10/12 to 5/6. Explain how you could rename 5 to subtract 3 and 1/4. So if you had 5 and you wanted to subtract 3 and 1/4, you could rename 5 as 4 plus 1 and 4/4, then subtract. I want to do problems 1 and 2 for share and show. Rename both mixed numbers as fractions, then find the difference. In the first example, they took 3 and 3/6 and they made it 2 and 9/6. What they did was subtract 1 from the 3, and they made it 6/6 and added it to 3/6 to get 9/6. Or you could rename it 21/6 by timesing 3 times 6 and getting 18 and adding 3 to 18 to get 21/6. And this one, they took 1 and 4/6 and subtracted 4/6 from 9/6 and got 5/6. Then they subtracted 1 from 2 and got 1. If you chose to do it in mixed numerals, or not mixed numerals, but improper fraction, you had to subtract 10 from 21. That left you with 11/6. 6 goes into 11 one time with 5 left over. You put the 5 over the 6 and you get 1 and 5/6. Now, I would like to try number 2 for you. It's 1 and 1/3 minus 2/3. So we have to take 3 times 1 and add the 1 to get a 4. So 1 and 1/3 becomes 4/3. 4/3 minus 2/3 becomes 2/3. On number 3, it's 4 and 7/10 minus 1 and 9/10. There are 2 different ways to do it. You can times 10 times 4 and get 40 and add the 7, and then it becomes 47/10. Or you could take 1 away from the 4 and make it 10/10 and add it to the 7, and that makes that 3 and 7/10. Then subtract 1 and 9/10 from 3 and 7/10. If you choose to make 1 9/10 an improper fraction, you're going to multiply 10 times 1 and get 10, and add the 9 to get 19/10. If you subtract 9 from 17, you will get 8/10. 3 minus 1 is 2. 2 8/10 becomes 2 4/5. Remember, we can make this a simpler fraction by putting 2 into the numerator and 2 into the denominator. 2 goes into 8 4 times. 2 goes into 10 5 times. That becomes 2 4/5. Your practice book page is page 147, and please do front with both story problems and the back. I will send the answer key and an email to your parents. If you are doing your math assignment and you get stuck, please call me. Ask your parents to call me and I can explain it over the phone. Thank you.